Okay, so welcome back to Lawrence Explains Online English and Maths Tuition. So what I've decided to do is basically just keep trying to produce videos as and when I can, because I think the way I see it is realistically these videos are not going to be very good given that I'm a complete beginner when it comes to YouTube, although I'm not a beginner when it comes to recording videos in general. I've done a lot of videos in the past for a course, but that's really a different thing. That was very much kind of scripted and attacking very, very specific topics, but this is going to be a little bit more of a vlog and a little bit more of a kind of day in the life of a tutor, someone who owns his own business and also is involved in shaping the future of the younger generation, helping young people on their journey through life and helping them really orientate themselves as best as they can. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do in this video, but I thought a nice thing to do would be maybe just to begin with, what I thought I would do is take some of these features from bitpaper, and what I'm going to do here is, what have we got here? We've got all of these different shapes, so I think I'm going to work from the bottom. Now I'm going to work from the top. I'm going to start off simple, and in each video I'm going to try to go through 4 different uses for these different shapes. So let's just to see, what potentially could they ever be used for. I'm really interested to know if I can actually think of anything I could do here. Okay, so this one I think is quite straightforward. This one will be no trouble at all. We could just do like maybe just something from physics here, or we could also do perhaps a bit of Pythagoras. We've got 10 kilometers here and 14 over here, something like that. Can we use Pythagoras to work out what the hypotenuse is here? Okay, so first one makes a lot of sense. Okay, that arrow makes complete sense. Let's have a look at the next one. Star. See, I already think things are getting a little bit squirrely here with the star. Okay, star. What am I going to do with this? From an academic point of view, I think the only thing I could really do with this would be maybe just to add a little bit of color. And if I was teaching a primary school student, which I am not, I don't usually do, maybe for a good piece of work I would put a little star on the screen like that, just jazz up the screen a little bit. I can't think of what you would do with a star, to be honest with you. So yeah, already things are looking quite difficult. Circle, okay, that's probably the most straightforward one, so let's get into action here with the circle. Okay, so we've got a sort of polo type of shape, and let's go, we've got a diameter here, let's call that, say that's 8 meters, for example, and then let's say we've got a, let's go, that's not a well-drawn circle, but let's just imagine it had been correctly drawn. We've got a radius there of 1.5 meters. And let's go, okay, this is the paved area around a pond. Can we work out the area of the paved section here? So we'd obviously find the radius of the larger circle, which is 4, apply pi r squared, and then we find the radius of the smaller circle is 1.5, pi r square that, and then we take the smaller circle from the larger circle. Okay, perfect. So we've got an easy one there. And the last one on this first row, the triangle. Okay, well that is easy in all fairness. So we've got really simple one. I'm not even going to try and be ambitious. I'm just going to go base times height divided, oops, that wasn't supposed to happen. I'm going to go base times height divided by 2. Okay, so that is the first part of this video, base times height divided by 2. I'm just exploring some of the features of bitpaper. The reason I brought this image up to begin with was I thought it would just be interesting to think about the direction that education, tuition and teaching are going in. Because I think at the moment we're obviously, it's a bit cliche that everything is in a reset. Everything is being looked at again, and maybe we're starting to look at our processes and think, are we being efficient here? Are we even being effective in what we're doing? I do see digital education, online learning making up an increasingly important aspect of teaching, tuition and learning in general. I think institutions that get on board with this and kind of look to lead from the front are going to potentially establish themselves quite well. Institutions that bury their heads in the sand, as many schools and universities have done during the COVID crisis, many universities simply not communicating really with students. A lot of schools offering no online teaching at all, just sending through work, which in my view is completely ridiculous because it's not difficult to teach online. But institutions who are a little bit more progressive, forward-thinking, and open to embracing the opportunities that online learning offers, I think they are really going to start to lead from the front. In terms of issues that I see, I think one of the issues that we've got online now as tutors, as teachers, and I think as kind of self-employed people in general, is that the internet it really truly is the Wild West. It is the Badlands of all things, and the only real order and structure that is imposed upon it is essentially through Google, which means you're playing by Google's rules, really. And so if you do quite well and get a following, that's most likely because you're doing things to kind of please Google. You're getting your content is working for Google. And so we're in this bizarre situation where we have people like, they call them the intellectual dark web, so likes of Sam Harris, Jordan Peterson, some of these types of people who are being viewed as some kind of intellectual, illuminated free thinkers. It's really, I find it really odd because I don't think there's one of them that I would consider to be a first-rate thinker. They all kind of have their strengths and they can deliver things in quite an interesting way. But if you take Peterson, for example, he's done really, really well on quite an obscure angle, I think. But I think it's mainly due to how proactive he's been online and over the years putting all of his lectures online and using YouTube and embracing all that kind of technology. If you look back, he's actually courted the media for quite a while before his own kind of star, rose. But in terms of just as a pure thinker, I know tons of academics who are much more interesting to listen to than him. I mean, his take on history and his take on politics is really odd, to be honest, and his take on psychology is much more interesting. I still think a lot of it is somewhat lacking. The stuff about the five characteristics, the 5 matrices of personality profile, that assumes something which I fundamentally think is wrong and has been wrong in my own experience, which is that your personality doesn't change. Of course your personality changes. It's somewhat situational. You're not going to be the same as a 70-year-old as you were as a 20-year-old. You may be radically different. And you can also intentionally develop your personality in certain ways. If you're not very conscientious, you can actually make yourself more conscientious over time. So all these, little things I would like to tease out a little bit more, but it's just interesting that he's become this massive, massive figure, and I think it's because, some of these thinkers, they just kind of work for Google and they've worked their social media really well. So yeah, on the kind of intellectual front, the teaching front, I think there's not really much quality control going on online, and that's something that kind of disturbs me and worries me a little bit. It worries me from the point of view of my own business, because I can't put massive amounts of money towards my advertising, and I'm seeing some quite average looking concepts and some quite average looking stuff really getting out to students, mainly off the basis of what I can see of advertising and media presence and so on. And so that kind of concerns me a little bit. Is it going to be possible to continue to be proactive as a tutor if it seems like most of the work is just going to all of these agencies that are springing up every 2 seconds? Everyone's got a new platform, everyone's starting an agency, everyone's an expert in online tuition, even though most people have been doing it for less than 6 months. So that is like a little bit of a concern for myself, and that's actually why I'm on YouTube now doing videos like this. So yeah, in summary, in the wild west of YouTube and media and the internet in general, it's kind of it's ruled by a different set of criteria that don't necessarily and really often don't reflect the quality or the intellectual quality or the even frankly the qualifications of the people who are leading the charge or being the voice in many different fields. It's not probably the best surgeons that have become social media sensations on and are getting these great big followings. It's probably not the best English teachers who are doing great channels and so on. So it's a little bit there's a bit of a disconnect there between quality and doing well online, and I don't know how to really bridge that gap. I think all you can really do as a teacher, as a tutor, if you want to be in the private sphere, in the private space, try to adapt to it. Try at least begin to get to grips with all of this new social media, like marketing presence type stuff, and try and hopefully get Google to like me. So that's what I'm doing right now. So a little bit of a ramble, but that's essentially a practice video for me. But the point I made was a serious point. So if you do have any thoughts, feel free to comment. I'm expecting, as I say, most of these videos to be getting no views, so perhaps this will be a video people might actually watch a year or two from now if I do manage to get at least a few followers. I don't know how many I could get, but 3 would be nice. I think I have 0 right now, so things can only get better. Okay, with that, I will leave you.